Hello and welcome. I assume all of you have seen the T1 generic unit compositions video, and in this video I'm going to introduce 4 situations in which you would want to mix in more Arty into your generic unit compositions. The first situation is when you play with a non-Aeon faction against Aeon. Some of you may know how Aurora works. So Aurora tanks are effective when there's many of them and when they can fire at the maximum range. The idea is that the range advantage of the Aurora is going to allow all Aurora to shoot at your tanks, while only some of your tanks can shoot back at the Aurora, namely the ones that are closest. And this is how the Aeon player achieves a defeat in detail victory. Of course, this only works if the Aeon player is running away from you with the Aurora, and this requires keeping them close together and running in a straight line. Of course, your Arty is going to hit the targets that run in a straight line, and if they're close together, then the Arty is going to deal extra damage. The Aurora is poorly armored, so having some Arty, in addition to the Arty you would have anyways, is going to be a great idea. Of course, T1 land is not the best counter against Aeon T1 land, because Aeon T1 land is just better. But if you want to use T1 land, maybe because you have to, then you need to at least increase the share of Arty in your mix for best results. Now let us take a look at situation number 2. Here we have 2 fairly large T1 armies, which indicates that the game has been ongoing for a while, and both players are spamming T1. So over here we have a standard unit composition. I'm just selecting the tanks and the Arty now. 4 tanks and 1 Arty as a ratio. And over here we have a player who is increasing the share of Arty in the mix. Now these numbers are just examples, but why would the bottom player mix in more Arty? Well, I already gave the answer. The game has been ongoing, the army gets larger, and this is why the size of the formation also changes. There are going to be less units at the edge of the formation and the corner of the formation, and the more units in the center. So an Arty projectile that is going to hit the center of the formation is going to kill multiple units at once due to the splash damage. And that makes Arty more effective. On top of that, if the formation gets larger, evading Arty shells is getting more difficult because the units get stuck in each other. For example, you can see those supporting scouts are stuck in between those units, and the other support units are going to enter the mixture as well. And it becomes very difficult to navigate everything separately. And that is why the longer the game takes, you should always increase the number of Arty in your mix. The only exception to this is Aeon, because Aeon Arty doesn't really have splash damage, and the Aeon players would simply stick to Aurora. Situation 3 is next, and here we have your ACU and a couple of T1 units to support it. If you want to fight with T1 units around your ACU, you need to understand the role of your ACU first. And your ACU in the T1 stage is, even though it may have access to overcharge, and it is certainly going to kill some enemy units, primarily a tank, and only in its secondary function a damage dealer. Because the DPS of the ACU compared to T1 units is relatively low, only the HP is astronomical. So the kills the ACU is going to get, including the kills with overcharge, are primarily there to add extra HP to your ACU and provide veterancy levels. This extra HP is going to add to the tankiness of the ACU, so you can see that this is really a specialized tank. This is why, to complete the picture, your unit composition, which you're going to use around the ACU, should be Arty heavy, because Arty is a damage dealer unit and a tank is a tank, right? But you already have the tank because of your ACU, so using lots of Arty around your ACU is going to be a good idea. Again, Aeon should be a little careful because Aeon Arty doesn't have splash damage, but other factions can easily go for a very Arty heavy mix. Seraphim could possibly even go full Arty, or perhaps take the generic unit composition from Seraphim and invert the amount of Arty and the amount of tanks in it. And this is how you get a strong support army for your ACU. In situation 4, we are planning to attack a base, and this is why it may make sense to switch one or two of the factories that have been producing a generic unit composition so far into artillery. The Arty is there for two reasons. First, the base is going to defend itself mainly with a PD, and Arty is going to outrange it. And second, the Arty is going to add extra DPS against the tanky structures so that the base dies faster. So these were the 4 situations in which you may want to build more Arty than usually in your generic T1 unit compositions. I hope it is clear to everybody. If you have questions, let me know, and good luck, have fun.